All right, welcome to the podcast. Hanging out with Chad Gillies, entrepreneur, musician, father, husband. How would you describe yourself?
Oh man, like maybe, maybe with archetypally, I feel like I'm a pioneer. I feel like
Nice.
I
Pioneer.
am, definitely have that like rebel kind of, I'm always on the outside edge of society.
Yeah.
I've lived in so many weird places and different things. I've seen so many different things that I don't know if I necessarily, we were talking about narratives. I don't know if I fit this narrative in Canada here, so
Right.
I'm kind of doing my own thing. And like I said, I don't necessarily believe in anything anybody says,
Yeah.
but if it resonates with me, then I'm buying in,
I love
you
it.
know?
One of the things that you said, I had you send me some notes, and you said, quote unquote, my mandate is to take back our mental health. And I kind of want to start with that question, and then we'll kind of get to how you've gotten to where you are in your life. But I wanted to kind of like start with that, which part of what I thought was interesting about that was um, the mandate to take back our mental health as opposed to your mental health. So when you talk about like mental health and who's the our in that? Is that you and your family? Is that us collectively? Who is that?
That's I would start with myself first, my family second,
Mm-hmm.
and then my community.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved in the mental health thing, like David Goggins is to exercise, I am to mental health.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like I would put myself at the like I have done the work.
Yeah.
I've seen all the things. I've been in different countries. I've done different things that like people would never think of, and what I know is just because of my experience and because of my family's experience. Like my wife is a counselor at the Children's Hospital
Okay.
uh, in Calgary here. She's been counseling like kids with like serious problems for like the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see I was also in that system when
Yeah.
I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I've seen like just the lack of development and the lack of the ability to change that system, and it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my wife came home the other day, and she said that she had discharged a kid who was suicidal and nonverbal, so really struggling, into a homeless shelter,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have any supports anymore. There's no there's no way for these people, like these people who are in healthcare, to help these kids. There's no supports. There's no money involved in it anymore. And it's like, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is that? Like, look at the developments we've made with cancer, and the developments we've made with like heart attacks, and like, I mean, it's so like they go in and they stick a little plug in you and get you in and out of a heart attack in like a day now. Like, why can't we fix mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's figure that out. That'll be the question we need to answer by the end of this. No. Um, so part of, I guess, where I'm always curious, like how people get to where they are. And I think obviously a big part of it is, how people grow up, right? And so what we have in common is we grew up in the same town, Red Deer. It's an interesting town. You come out of it. I think it's a good town to grow up in. You know what I mean? You get a different, unique perspective on things. But how did your childhood kind of shape who you are? What was your experience? I mean, that's a big question, but maybe
Sure.
just talk about it a little bit.
Sure, let's talk about it. I really appreciated what you said about growing up in Red Deer, how it prepares you to grow up anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's a rugged place, but it was still small enough and still beautiful enough that it was safe, that we could explore. I spent a lot of time down, in Heritage, that Heritage Ranch area where the flood plain is there.
Okay. Yeah.
And man, I could remember as a kid spending hours and hours building forts and all this stuff and walking down there, and
Yeah.
and it was it was beautiful, it was safe, and then your parents would be like, where were you guys? And we're like,
For the last 12 hours.
for the last,
Yeah.
that's right, for 12, literally 12 hours from
Yeah.
sun up to sun down.
Yeah.
And it was so, it was kind of wholesome. But now I know now, like, you know, if we want to talk about some mental health stuff, the opioid crisis has come in, and it's not as maybe as safe or
Right.
as good as it once was.
Yeah.
You know, but I can just. Do you want like a brief synopsis of my like?
I want you to tell me everything you want to talk about. I want a context of, I'm really curious about, you know, how you've gotten to your perspective. So as much as your childhood affects that, I'm curious.
I mean, my thing is like, in our childhood, we have all these struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we grow and mature, we overcome these struggles. We take responsibility for our struggles, even though wasn't really our fault.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can take responsibility, we can get up over those struggles, and we can use those, go from the victim to the victor, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the crisis to like living life, and like in this rich, full thing where I can tell you, you know, I love you, man. I'm proud of you, or, you know, whatever that might be. I have enough courage in me to be able to say those things. So I'll give you, man, I can give you the Coles notes on the growing up. I mean, I think probably I can say this pretty comfortably. Like, you know, we don't want to compare. We don't want to, but I went through probably more trauma from the time I was 3 years old to the time I was probably like 16 than probably most people ever will go through in their life. And I mean, I went through, like, first when I was 5, my dad died. Then one of my, a kid moved in. We were like really tight. Motorcycle accident. He died in a motorcycle accident. He wasn't wearing a helmet, and he got in an accident. Then I had another divorce. I had some really like questionable uncles, you know, in the sexual sense of like just hideous shit that went unchecked. Nobody. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm not. People were the way they were. People, you know, it was tough. And then from that, I went into this place, and I went into I went into the mental health construct, the Alberta mental health construct. Mm-hmm. And I was like, when I was 16, I was like suicidal and like really struggling. Like I could just feel all the energy just suck out of me. This beautiful little kid, you know, charismatic, loving, eager to please everybody. It just sucked, the energy just sucked out of me, and I could not look at that anymore. And that's like, you know, start drinking, started, you know, doing, like, I never got hard into the drugs, although I did enough. Yeah. that I can tell you what to do and what not to do. Yeah. My personal opinion, of course. Yeah. But what I noticed is when I went into this, like into the psychiatric ward in Red Deer, Alberta, when I was like 15, is that all they wanted to do was give you pills. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, like, are these pills working for me? They're not. Mm-hmm. They're turning me off, and I'm just diving deeper. I'm just going deeper. Yeah. There was no relief for me in the pills, which is so interesting to me, because I know a lot of people who have gotten the relief, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, my partner has went through, and she's like, well, like this helped me get through this situation, and it was great, and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, but for me, like, nothing worked. And so what happened was, I was like these two beasts. I was like this self-destructive, like rugged little badass rebel. Mm-hmm. And then I was this beautiful, loving kid who read every self-help book. Like, I mean, I think I probably read every single book that is on your wall there. Like I devoured that shit. Nice. And I just started. I should read them. Yeah. The Celestian Prophecy, that was a good one. I love that one. That's not like, I don't know if I would call that a self-help book, but
It's interesting,
good story.
though.
Good story.
Yeah,
Good story.
yeah.
And and I see how that fits in our real life now.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. But so basically it was like there was two dogs, you know, and it was like, what dog am I feeding? And I was like, I was in the, you know, like I was in the like fuck the system attitude, and like this, like, you know, like I'm a badass. And then I was like I like just want to be happy, and I want to feel happiness. Like, do you know, like, I don't know. I don't feel like I felt happiness until I was 45 years old.
Wow.
And that was like impossible, right? Like, it doesn't seem like after all these traumas happened, I was just living to avoid those traumas and not get into the next trauma. But it was a slippery slope, right? So it was like, okay, so then I started, so what happened was then I realized, okay, I got to get clean. I was having a baby, I got to get clean. So I got clean because I blamed it on the alcohol.
And when was, like...
So that was I was about 25 or 26.
Okay.
So I quit cigarettes first. I was a 3-pack-a-day smoker.
Holy shit.
Like, impossible, right?
That's impressive, actually.
Like, how much time did it take to smoke those cigarettes?
So you were lighting one with the other one.
It was just like one after the other after the other. It was insane. Drinking like a case of beer and a 2-6 of rye every night. Really? Wow. Every night. Like, trying to drown those things that happened. And then, so what I did was I got to the point of sober. And it was like, oh, like, all my problems are solved. Yeah. Like, alcohol, it wasn't alcohol. Yeah. I was miserable, right? I blamed it on alcohol. I blamed it on whatever it was. I always blamed it on something, right? And then I had this like big realization. Like, I got sober, cleaned up, took my wife and my kids, and we moved to Costa Rica. 4 years old and 8 years old. And it was kind of like this huge realization, like, no, it was like, I always had something to blame it on. When I got there, it was just Mother Nature there. And it's like, this is it. Like, this is it. If I'm not happy in this, then when will I ever be happy? And it was like, oh, okay. So I am miserable because I am miserable. Not because of alcohol, not because of trauma, not because of anything. This is my baby. This is my hatred. I'm carrying this bag with me. Because none of the other stuff is there with you. It's just like, you're there with your feelings. Yeah, in that moment. Yeah. What's happened in the past, we cannot control that. We were grown up however we were grown up. My parents had their traumas, their problems, not my problem. Right? I grew up, I had my traumas, I had my problems, and now I'm carrying that bag around and swinging that at everybody. Yeah. What is that going to accomplish? Right? There is nothing good going to come from that. So at that point, I had to learn to take responsibility for everything. Even the horrible shit that happened when I was a kid is still my responsibility. I'm on this earth to transcend that and to become more powerful and to learn how to love better, harder, and stronger. And I got a big dose because I am here to fucking overcome that shit. Right. And make people, bring people into that love and bring people into that happiness, that mental health. It's mental health. Yeah. Right? Like, so in Costa Rica, I ran into ayahuasca. Yeah. Have you ever heard of this stuff? Yeah, I have. I don't know, I don't know a ton about it. So yeah, I definitely wanted to talk to you about that. Okay. So how old were you when you first experienced ayahuasca then? So I think I was about 27 or 28. Okay. So that was like 2006-ish. Yeah. Okay. On the internet, there is not a word about ayahuasca. There is nothing. Nobody knows nothing about ayahuasca. Really? The first... like at that time, you're saying? At that time. Gotcha. Yeah, at that time. Now, there's all kinds of stuff there, right? So it was so funny. We literally get to our house
Yeah.
in Costa Rica. They've stolen all the pipes out of the house. It's white people moving into a ghetto in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And in the jungle, 3 feet from the water, but
Yeah.
it was still the herba. Like it was still like chickens in the trees and
Yeah.
like, the wildness. And I learned so much. But the first English speaking person that I ran into looks at me and says, I was like, what are you up to? Like, she's like, oh, I'm going up to this place called Nosara and we're doing ayahuasca. And I'm like, oh, like I heard about this shit I heard about it from a gal in Calgary who was a nutritionist.
Okay.
And after I quit drinking, I had these massive, like debilitating headaches.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor started giving me opioids for them.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, like, should I just go back to drinking?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
shit,
Like,
eh?
or should I just ruin
Yeah.
my life with, like, I mean, we didn't know about the opioid crisis way back then,
Yeah.
but I knew it didn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
I knew it made me ache for that pill, right? So I was like, I can't carry on this way. She gave me this tincture that, at the time it was Chinese medicine, and now they've banned a whole bunch of this Chinese medicine, which is an interesting thing too. But it was this tincture, and she's like, your adrenals are on full blast because you were at war your whole life. And now you use the liquor and Coca-Cola. I used to drink 2 to 4 liters of Coca-Cola a day.
Jesus.
I know, right? Like,
That's so
how am I
gross.
still alive, really? Like,
How do you have a stomach liner?
right? And so she told me about ayahuasca. She's like, you're the kind of guy who would probably do pretty well on this stuff. And so I was like, it'll tell you about your whole life. And it was like that fantasy, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
fantasy of like, oh, it'll tell you your life and your life's purpose and all this, the spiritual high ground, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing it.
So were you receptive to that at that time? Like, were you into mindfulness and mental health and trying to improve at that time already?
Yeah. So I got sober, and I went on this like kick. Like, I mean, like I was like renting hotel rooms to meditate. Like I'd go and I'd meditate for 8 hours, and I would just like push my mind to the absolute limit. Like, where is happiness? There has to be happiness somewhere here, right? There has to be. And then you'd catch a little glimpse of it in a meditation, and that would push me to keep going and keep moving. And then I'd go back home, and my wife would be like, you didn't do the whatever, the laundry, or whatever it would be, right? And then we'd have a fight, and it would pull me right out of that place. And it's like, why can't I be in that? Why can't I be in that place? Why can't I be happy? Like, what's wrong with my life?
Yeah. So I have a question about that, because I struggle with that too. Not my wife nagging at me, but we nag each other. But one of the things that, and I think about it from a Stoic perspective versus, say, like a Buddhist monk perspective, but I picture like the Buddhist monk is in the cave meditating. And if you can take away all of your distractions and you can sit in a hotel room or in a cave and you can meditate, you can kind of find peace because you've taken away all of the variables that might irritate you. Whereas I feel like Stoicism is more of trying to find peace while you're still at battle, right? And while you're still interacting with the world and stuff like that. That's the challenge to me. Is like, I'm like, well, I could be a Buddhist monk and sit and because when I'm just by myself, I can be peaceful. It's when you start interacting with other people, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, that happiness goes away. So for me, the challenge is I want to be able to be interacting and find happiness.
Yeah. So I 100% agree. I had the fantasy of being the Buddhist monk in the hill. I was lucky enough. I had this Jungian analyst kind of mentor, or he's like a psychologist, but just a different vein of psychology. And I would talk to him about that, and he would quickly shut me down. He's like, no. He's like, you are in this world. You are here. You're here finding happiness here. You cannot run. Like, you need to go in and go through, right? And it's like, oh, okay. Like it's like the Calgary roads. Like, I could be happy and beautiful, and still sometimes the Calgary roads can get me. It's like, oh, like, why do I let this thing happen? But to me, we have these experiences, right? And we always talk about the journey, right? You know, the journey. Well, to me, it's not the journey. It's what you become along the journey. Like, so I started here. I was angry. I was volatile. I was wild. I was alcohol, drugs, whatever. Now I've cleaned all that off. And what I've learned is in every aspect, I don't need anything that I want. I don't need anything I want, and I can make that choice. And stoicism for me is when you can get up and face, like, you know how we were talking about the crisis and like how calm like Connor McDavid would be, or like Chris Pronger, or these great hockey players. That's what we are doing when we can take and slow it down, like how those guys do it on the rink. I don't think those people are necessarily great people in the real world. I don't know them or know that about them. But when they're on the ice, they are in slow motion. They are calm. They're peaceful, and they're doing what they need to do in slow motion. And that's what we need to do. So when we let go of the expectation of, well, I need to make enough money to drive in my fancy car, and I'll be happy when I get that car. So when I can realize that I don't need any of that shit to be happy, my happiness is a choice right here. And when someone fires me from a job, I can sit and I can ruminate about that and agonize because I am a perfectionist and I want to do everything exactly right. Or I can go, let's move on to the next job. I'll put that energy, instead of worrying, I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to put that into the next job, and I'm going to kick that job's ass, and I'm going to be way better. And that other person's going to look back on this day, and maybe things didn't go that great for that job, and maybe I made a mistake, and maybe he was a bit of a dick, but we collectively have decided to part ways, so let's not spend any energy on that anymore. Let's put the energy, we have this much energy, let's put that energy into the next job. Let's be better. Instead of worrying about the past or worrying about the future, let's be right here, present, slow it down, and do the next job the best. And that's where, to me, that's happiness right there.
Absolutely. So you're in, okay, I need to hear the end of this story, because you're in Costa Rica. You're living in Costa Rica with your family. So that you meet this English-speaking person who looks at you. You must have looked like some sort of hippie that would enjoy going on this journey. So how did this all come about?
So she said, well, she's going to ayahuasca. She's going to this place. And
can I ask a dumb question?
Is
ayahuasca like, is it a drug, or is it a destination, or like, what is ayahuasca?
So ayahuasca is ancestral plant medicine.
Okay.
And we need to put that into our language.
Okay.
Because this medicine has been healing people for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
It's like in Canada and the United States, we have dubbed it a drug, or they'll call it DMT, or like whatever story they want to make up. I don't care. This is like a sacred plant medicine that these the ceremonies are performed with a shaman who has like I would like to take you and just show you, and instead of trying to explain it. But these shaman who administer this medicine have special skills. They sing, and they use the vibration of their singing to call out the darkness in you, or to push in the light, or whatever. It's so highly special that we can't even, I mean, we can talk about it, but we're not going to
the words don't get it.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And what all this medicine is doing is it's bridging the lies in your head to the truth in your heart. And it's opening up this door, and then you have to choose, are you going to go and get healthy or not get healthy? Because it will fix you.
Really? Okay, so you meet this woman, You decide, obviously, this is something you want to experience.
Yeah. She's like, my wife just looks at me, and I'd been talking about this, and she's like, just fucking go. And I was like, oh, like, okay. Like, I thought she was going to say, cause we're in this crisis, right? Like, we just moved to Costa Rica. She knows nobody. She's got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. The pipes have been stolen out of the house, so there's no water. Like, everything is a shit show. It's welcome to Costa Rica. This is how it is there. And she lets me go, because I wouldn't have went if she would have said, well, we gotta fix the pipes and do the things. Right. She's like, go. So I drive. I'm not kidding you. I have a 1992 at the time, a 1992 diesel Toyota Hilux.
Okay.
No GPS. No GPS.
Well, yeah.
This is before GPS. No GPS. I drive across a country. No Spanish. I don't know Spanish. I don't know nothing. I can't ask for help. I can't ask for directions.
Yeah.
I drive across the country like a laser beam, and I find this place in the jungle.
Sweet.
No problem.
Yeah.
Just like.
And you're by yourself?
I'm by myself.
So this woman, I thought maybe the woman would help you get.
The woman meets me. The woman meets me there, but.
Yeah.
That was it. I get there. At that point, the only camping I'd ever done is drunk May long weekend, Red Deer camping.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know this?
Yeah.
They drop me in the middle of the jungle in this little lean-to. There is a spider this big in my net, in my like, what's the the net that they put over so you don't get
like
bit by mosquitoes. The mosquito net, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a spider this big in that, so I cannot use that.
Yeah.
There are ants under my bed that are building something.
Yeah.
So I am like in it. I'm like this, little
You're
redneck
like, damn,
kid.
I wish my wife didn't let me do this.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna die of getting bit by some carpenter ant, or I'm gonna die from a spider. I'm gonna get malaria, or I'm like just in crisis, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the whole weekend was about the transition of like from big city to Mother Nature.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, and this like the humbleness of this, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is when you go into this like, it's like, have you ever done acid, or have you ever done mushrooms?
Yeah.
Okay, so like when you get, I don't know how wrecked you've been on mushrooms, but if you did like 4 or 5 grams of some pretty good mushrooms, you've probably seen some things.
Yeah.
And it's like that times 1,000.
Okay.
So like you can go in and you see this first we go into this big huge ashram in the middle of the jungle, like marble. This thing is special. Like, yeah. It's like, do you know who Osho is? Have you ever heard of him? Osho was like this big spiritual guy. He came to this place, this deserty place in, I want to say Utah, but somewhere in North America, in the United States. They built a paradise. They're all his helpers. They turned this desert into this like special place, and then they got in this big huge fight with the town people, and they poisoned them. And there was like this big. There's a big thing on. It's called No Country, I think it's called.
Okay.
Or it's on Netflix, but just look up
Osho. I'm going to.
Yeah, you got to watch this. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
And it's a lawyer's.
It's really lovely.
It's a lawyer's perspective on. It's almost like a cult, like what we would dub a cult, but it started out as a beautiful healing thing.
Right.
And then it gets perverted by people. Like, what happens is people pervert things, right?
Yeah.
And if you were the person in charge of this thing and you weren't kept in check, much like Trudeau, like if he's not kept in check, we've given him the keys to the kingdom. Mm-hmm. If we don't take responsibility for that, mm-hmm. then he's going to do whatever he wants to do.
Right.
Right. So we always need to keep people in check. And so this thing became this big, like almost like cult vibe. And they're doing this beautiful healing thing though. Like it's really special, and they're healing. And this guy is like Osho, like you go dive into this guy. He is a unit. I'll just say that. Like some of the things that he's done is beautiful. Some of it nutty as shit. Like,
right.
So but within this community, they build this paradise in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden the land becomes valuable and stuff is happening, and then the townspeople, like they're like blue collar small town, and all of a sudden all these weird people are here, and it's this like, it'd be like if all these people from England just dropped in on Red Deer,
Yeah.
you know, and all of a sudden everything's changing.
Yeah.
You know, the Red Deer people would kick.
Yeah.
Right. We'd nope. we're keeping Red Deer the way it is. Like
Yeah.
that's how we're doing it. So they get in this big huge fight. They disassemble this whole cult, but this cult is what I go to in Costa Rica. The remnants of that thing
wow.
is the people. Osho had died and left it to a guy named Teohar, and it's a place called Pachimama in Nosara, and it's amazing. They bought like thousands of acres, and they have a thing where it's like you can build a house there, but you can't own the land.
Okay.
So you don't have to pay rent, but if you this is your house, but if you do things and you get kicked out, then they just and if you follow along and you live the life, then it's all good. But it's got to have rules, and
Right.
it's tricky. But they do everything there. So they do like colonic cleanses and yoga and all, like it's just like all the things. They grow all the food. They do all the monkeys come in and they eat the mangoes, and it's like so special. Like it's this amazing place, but like rugged Mother Nature. Like,
Yeah.
and I'd never been in that, right?
Wow.
So I go in, and like like I told you, like I was a little bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Like I had my ways. I was hard.
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna pave this motherfucker, right? We're
Yeah.
gonna pave the world. We're gonna build buildings. We're gonna do the best stuff, and we're gonna turn this into a concrete jungle. I was taught that. Like
Yeah.
I was taught that. Like real men build stuff. We are strong. That's it. That's our life. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna develop this world. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And ayahuasca, for a lack of better terminology, is Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And she just came in and she just like grabbed my ideals and she just shook me up, and
Yeah.
she turned me on my head and body slammed me for the entire weekend, basically. And it was like it was very hard for me. Like a lot of people who the first time they do ayahuasca is very chill.
Yeah.
Like they just have a nice light thing. She gave me the full service. Like she knew I was rugged, she knew I was strong, and she knew I was bullheaded, and she just shook me and she shattered me into oblivion. And in that moment, everything in my life changed. It was like, oh, like I see the way forward. I start becoming the musician. I'm divorced in 6 months. I am like eating healthy, like no more like I just dive into like anything that I can do. Like, you know how, like I said, I was committed before, I was meditating, but like I'm taking this next level, like anything I can do to make my mental health better in a different way though, like in a more organic, like loving, learning to love myself way. I just get after it. And within that, I just get beat. Like, I mean, like when my wife actually left me, which was, I thought I would have left her.
Right.
But, and it was, it was tragic for me. It was that was one of the hardest things. And then I got back and my dog died, and I had this like, oh God, the Willis Gillis, he was the most beautiful.
Living a country song at this point.
Yeah,
now.
right? Like
Yeah.
everything. And then, but I throw myself into the music,
Yeah.
myself into the poetry, and like just become this like thing, and just kind of, slightly shift from this, like what I would say like would be an ultra conservative lifestyle to this like ultra liberal lifestyle, right? But what I'm trying to do there is get the balance, right? Because it's not conservative and it's not liberal. That's not what, it's the middle. It's where that's where we make progress, is the middle. We get shown all these things on the journey, but it's what we become in the journey. I came from hard life, like
Right.
knuckle sandwiches.
Yeah.
And,
Knuckle sandwiches.
and what I got was love.
Right.
Right? And she had to show me this really hard thing, but then she just kept just loving me and showing me. And so I only did ayahuasca about a few times.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I started like digging in, like Jungian therapy, like just like the Hoffman process. Like, I mean, I did every kind of thing that could help understand who I was as a person.
Yeah.
And just started working on music. Ended up having a little bit of a music career. It wasn't fruitful, but I like made records in Nashville. I lived in Europe for a few years. I got to go to the Banff Center, like I was saying, to a full scholarship kind of thing. I got to do all this stuff, and it really kind of dragged me back to soften up. And that softening showed me that I can love myself.
Right.
And that softening showed me that I can choose to be happy.
Yeah.
That was the sauce, right?
Right.
The happiness. It's like, it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if what's going on in my life. I love myself, and I can always love myself, and I can always choose love over the hate, right? And that just those two little times in ayahuasca showed me that. Like I know this, not I read this in a book. This isn't a theory. This is in my inside every day, every way.
So I need to ask, I'm really curious about the process. So when you go there and you're in Costa Rica, and you're at this, what is it?
It's an ashram. It's a spiritual.
So how did they? Because it's a guided experience, right?
Yes.
So maybe walk through like what that is, and like how do you consume the
sure.
everything about that.
So okay, like, so some people would go, oh, like maybe this is a drug or something. But so what you have to do in order to do this ceremony for 10 days, you have to clean up your eating.
Okay.
So you want to get, like, they don't talk about this, but it's you want to get your body alkaline, because ayahuasca will actually physically heal broken things in your body if you give her a chance, like, and that's being alkaline. So you don't eat like salt, you don't eat pork, you don't eat like candy and shit like that. Like you clean up, you just eat whole real food.
Okay.
and you get alkaline, and that lets the medicine into you.
Okay.
I can tell you not the first time, the second time I did it, I used to have this hideous problem with my gums. Gum problems are like, symbolically, gum problems are lack of decision making. So you don't have the confidence to make decisions. If you ever look at somebody and you see that they have really bad gum problems, I'll bet you $100 you can link them up with decision making problems. Like they'll sit and they'll put it off. They'll like,
interesting.
There's a little thing there. So the second time I did it, I particularly noticed that night that I was like, oh, like I'm struggling, and this is like when I can kind of tell all my world is falling apart because of the first time I did it. Now I'm like 3 months later, I'm doing it again, and everything's kind of coming apart, and I'm really struggling. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't know about Costa Rica, like all these things, right? And I'm really, really struggling with indecision. And I looked in the mirror before I went in, and I was like, oh yeah, like I got this, like, and that I woke up the next morning after that trip, and it was all healed. There was nothing left of that gum problem. It was completely gone. Mentally, the indecision was gone. Physically, the gum problem was completely eradicated. Like my gums were perfect overnight somehow. I leave that to ayahuasca. I'm not going to prove the science. I don't know.
No, of course not.
But sacred plant medicine, things happen.
So this is a weird question maybe, but I'm curious how all of this, like, where did the divorce come from in that? Like, because you're talking about, like, I made all these positive changes.
Right.
I got divorced. I'm like, well, that seems like not a positive change. So is it just that all of a sudden you're looking at your whole life and you're questioning everything, or where did that particularly?
So, in my heart, I believe that we are with certain people for certain times.
Mm-hmm.
We learn what we need to learn, and then if it's not working, we need to move on.
Okay.
And I can take full responsibility in my little badass life that I destroyed that thoroughly. And there was no recovering from that. Like there was like I had to admit to myself that I did some horrible shit, and now it's time to move on and let her do what she needs to do and let me do what I need to do. It wasn't as easy as that sounds.
No.
It wasn't like that. But it, like, looking back now, I can go, she needed to move on and be who she needed to be and see who she is without all that stuff that happened in our pre-life.
Right.
Because now she deserves a good, healthy life. And boy, I'll tell you what, the gal that I am with now, it's so special. Like, you realize when love is right.
Yeah.
It's so special, and it's so, like, it's like you almost can look back and go, oh, like, how could I have been involved in that when
Yeah.
I was so exactly the opposite of what I feel like love is now.
Yeah.
You know, and love, like, I'm glad it's kind of interesting that you brought this up, because so to me, love is not just like soft and mushy.
Yeah.
Love is the violence that shakes you from whatever it is that you're doing. Like, love was those things that happened to me when I was a kid. Love was my dad dying. That was love calling me and saying, I want you to come and be my weapon. I want you to come and help me change the world, because all these people are in this, like, you know, this thing where they don't know and they don't care and they're not interested. And I'm just like, I'm so enthusiastic that I just want to love you. I want to bring love into you. When I come in contact with you, I don't want to go, oh, you know, I just want a latte. And, like, I want to come in that store and I want to leave my love on the table for you. And I want to make you happier because I ordered a coffee from you. Every day, every way, I want to drop my love on you.
Can I ask you, okay, so I feel like, so the first part of your life, you're experiencing anger, right? So the ability to experience anger as like powerfully as you did that then allow you to experience love with almost the same amount of power?
That's what it is, right? That's what, you know how we always throw that word around, balance?
Mm-hmm.
You feel the hate, you feel the anger, you feel the love, like, so powerful. And then we meet in the middle and we can have a little bit of anger and a little bit of hate. But I can, like remember what I was talking about with Chris, and I said, like, I could drop that on him and let him feel that little moment. That's where that comes from. It's like that punishing struggle and that willingness to overcome. That's all I am.
Yeah.
I'm resilient.
Yeah.
Like, you can, there's nothing special about me, but I am resilient. That's kind of what is special about me. You know what I mean? Like, I can get over, like, you can kick me down, you can kick me down, and I'm just going to keep getting up and
Yeah.
keep coming for you. I don't care. I still love you. And I'm still going to, like, get that.
I love that.
You know?
So how long then did you live in Costa Rica after those experiences?
So I wasn't there for much longer. Like, so
Yeah.
then then what happened was, things got a little rocky, and my wife decided, she's like, I'm homesick. I want to go home. So then we went home, we sold the house, moved back. And then as soon as we got back, she's like, done. And so, okay, then I struggled. I don't know why. Like, it was like, I didn't even want to be with her, but when she divorced me, it crushed me. And it, like, crushed me, like, so thoroughly. But, like, it taught me so much about how to not take advantage, and how to really respect somebody, and how to hear them and to listen to them, and be grateful for them. Like, I will not take mine and your friendship for granted, because I took that relationship for granted, and I took her for granted. And how could anyone be happy in that? Like, she did, of course, she did what she had to do, because how would you be happy there? Like, I just keep taking and taking, and that's unconsciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my greedy, like I'm getting everything and I'm not giving anything. Like that's garbage, right? And we know this is how our lives are sometimes, and we have to be really accountable and really careful about how we get what we need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay. You're allowed to ask for anything you want. You deserve everything you want. But if someone says no, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not because you're a horrible person. It's not because you're shitty. It's just because they're saying no.
Yeah.
And we have to just accept that and respect that and not hold on to that, right? Just move on to the next thing, and let's care about each other and build each other up. We're here to build each other up. That's what, in my relationship now, what's so special is we build each other up. I don't come home and go, oh, you didn't clean the counter off. It's like, hey, love you, whatever, like, you want a back rub, or you want, we want to go to IKEA, and I don't even like IKEA, but like, let's go to IKEA and
let's get some meatballs.
Get some meatballs or something, like whatever it might be, right? Like, and embrace that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we need to do things that my partner needs.
Yeah.
And I consciously will choose to do that with enthusiasm and with love.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's so special.
So so you have this kind of like transformation, obviously. Is it something that like, is ayahuasca something then you don't need to do anymore? Like, is it, like where some drugs, like, so if you were to be medicated with pharmaceuticals, it's like, take this drug every day for the rest of your life. And if you stop taking it, you're going to die. So ayahuasca seems like you have this like giant epiphany, but then it kind of is like, that's all you need.
Okay, when when you read a book and it just amps you up, and then like 2 weeks later you forget about it.
Yeah, totally.
Ayahuasca gets in you and it never leaves.
Okay.
And it will, if it needs you to do something, to work on something, it will relentlessly be in here until you do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And it's just, it's what should be part of every human's DNA.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. Like, that's what I feel. It's something that we have been withheld because it will make you so powerful that the government will be scared of it.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like I went from questionable, selling weed, just being a greasy, like just surviving, right? Just surviving. And I went from that to family man, community guy. I make good money. I'm a business owner. Like, I went from the shittiest thing to the most powerful thing that the government literally wants us to be.
Yeah.
But the government has never like legalized it here, right?
Right.
So it's like so ironic. But it's literally creating me to be the citizen that my government wants me to be.
Yeah, that's it. That's an interesting. Yeah,
It balances everything out in you, and it doesn't make you too soft. It doesn't make you liberal. It doesn't make you conservative. It makes you think about the middle, like what is good and healthy for this moment.
Right.
And that is what if every citizen was like that, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, crazy.
So when you left Costa Rica, you mentioned that you got into music, but music must have been something that you had growing up, or is this something that just was something that you got into after kind of your experience and you were kind of transforming your life?
So like, when I was a kid, like when I was like 15 or 16, like, I wanted to be a singer. I wrote. I was a poet, right? And I wanted to do that, but I wasn't a good singer. So nobody would let me play in their band, right? So then I started kind of learning music at that point, but I always kept it very private and very personal, right? And then once you throw the ayahuasca in, then it's like, okay, I need to take steps to fulfill my soul. This is my soul we're talking about, right? It doesn't matter if you're famous or not famous. These are all things that we get in our mind, our egos get in our mind, right?
Right.
But what I knew is that I had to fulfill my soul, and I had to overcome my cowardice to perform on stage. As a sober guy, completely insecure, completely like, I would go up, the first time I ever went up on stage, which was probably about 6 months after that, at the VAT, you know the VAT,
Yeah.
on the Sunday night jam. I went up and I played a song, and my nerves were so bad that my hands locked solid. I could not play the guitar.
Really?
And I had to walk off the stage.
Oh, wow.
That's how intense this was. And it wasn't about becoming a musician. It was about becoming fearless.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can beat me up, you can push me down, but I am not scared. Like that's what my soul has transformed.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can do anything you want, but I'm not scared of you. If it's a great big guy and he's threatening me out there, I'm not scared. I know he'll beat me up, but I'm not scared.
Yeah.
If I've been put into this situation, there is a reason for this situation, and I need to manage to get through it. And I need to do it fearlessly with love. Love. That's what controls me.
Yeah.
Is love, nothing else. So that was part of it. So we moved back, divorced. I dove into the music hard. We made some records in Nashville with a guy named Steve Dawson. Do you know who Steve Dawson is?
No.
He's a Vancouver guy, just master, like beautiful guys. I got to be around all these beautiful people, so great. Released some records in Europe, was in Europe for a couple years. It was going pretty good. Like I was on like 180 radio stations. I was in magazines with like Tyler Childers and like Coulter Walls and like all these guys, all these roots guys. They were like on Yellowstone and they blew way up now, and they're really great, famous musicians. But it just couldn't make the money.
Yeah.
You just couldn't. I was like starving. Like I was sleeping on couches and not eating, and it took a toll on me mentally. And so I came back, kind of slumped in there, and I was like, oh, I hate music, and I had to overcome that. And then COVID came, and the last thing that you could do is you could perform to make money, and COVID just wiped that out. So at that point, I was like, how much effort do I really want to put into this? I feel like I learned what I needed to learn.
Yeah.
I'm confident. I love myself. I'm beautiful. I can look at myself in the mirror and I can understand how much sacrifice it takes to do this, and that I didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay, right? I can love and accept that that's okay. But man, did it make me a good person.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I take from it. And so then it was weird. And then I just put myself into my work and my family, which is another thing. Like, so as we're culminating, like, okay, so I went off the ayahuasca for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter was 22 and she has depression problems.
Okay.
She's into Molly. She's into cocaine. She lives her mom was my high school sweetheart. She had some deep, like, bipolar. She was a like slightly functioning drug addict her whole life. Okay, and then she was with a guy that was a highly functioning coke addict his whole life, and he was an oil field guy, and he could pay for everything, and they did cocaine, and they were just like, it was rugged, and I couldn't do anything to get Peyton to live with me. Like, it was always half and half. And Peyton did come with me to Costa Rica when we moved there, but when we got back, she went back with her mom, and so when I was in Vancouver, remember I told you I lived up in Vancouver, she came to me and she's like, Dad, she's like, I can see, like, why are you so happy now? Like, what's changed? And I was like, well, I said, like, this ayahuasca, like, got in me, like, I'm telling you, like, and then it just was like, it was just like a slow burn, but it, like, I was able to, like, you know what the hardest thing to do is to break one of your habits.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we are wired to get in a car and drive it on route memory, right? Like, if we had to get in a car and relearn how to drive a car every single time we got in a car, we'd never get anything done.
Right.
So what we do is we route memory. So when you were a kid, you ate sugar pops. So now every time you get up, you eat sugar pops.
Yeah.
And it is the hardest thing in the world to change that, right? Like to overcome that.
Yeah.
You add the ayahuasca and all those things become a little bit more manageable. And so you can work on things and have success.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. I don't know how much, like, I know you know a lot of stuff about like stoicism and all these different little things. So I know you have looked into all these things. I know you've searched. I know you're a searcher because you're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
So I know you've worked on things, and I know you've developed and learned.
I'm a work in progress.
Me too, brother. We all are, and believe me, I don't care what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I get angry. I'm still a human being. I still get disappointed. I still, all the things.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. Not at all. And I know this kind of like gives that impression, but that's not true.
Right.
I'm still a human being. I still do stupid shit. I still make mistakes. I still get mad and driving in downtown Calgary, whatever. But what has happened is I have gotten a little bit progressively better and better, and it's given me this foothold to just develop.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't, like what was happening before was that I just felt like I could never get anywhere.
Right.
I just kept trying and meditating and doing this, and I was not making any headway. But once you put this, it's love.
Mm-hmm.
It's what it is. It's the most disgusting tasting, hideous stuff, and it makes you puke and sometimes shit, but it just puts love in you.
Yeah.
And you can't get it out anymore. It's there, and you just develop. So Peyton came to me when I was in Vancouver, and she's like, oh. And I was like, P, like, if you want to do this, I'll track somebody down in Canada, and I will come with you because you're my kid. Like, I don't want to just send her off to some guy in Canada who doesn't even know what he's doing or whatever. Like, at least I'll kind of know.
Yeah.
You know? And so it took a long time, but then I found a guy in Sechelt. And this guy is special. He is beautiful. And I took Peyton and my partner, who's worked in the mental health industry for years and years and years, doesn't sleep. She's PTSD like to the maximum. She has been smashed to pieces by our broken system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took them, and it was extraordinary. I mean, it was just like, wow. Like, and I was kind of there like for them. I wasn't there to heal. Like, I was just like, oh, like I'm good. Like, whatever. But of course, it's like, oh no, let's rinse and repeat, and let's figure some things out, and let's make some struggles. And it took me back in and worked on some things, and this real humble place. And there's like is this an outhouse? And there's like nothing fancy. And so we got down to business, and then Peyton really took to it. And Peyton went. I mean, this is a 24-year-old girl who was working. She was working on the pipeline, building the one to BC there. The big state one.
Yeah.
And she had been really trying to get clean and really trying to get her life together. And she tried keto and just some different things to kind of. She was working on things. It was lovely. It was beautiful to see. But she wasn't getting anywhere. And so we went and we did ayahuasca. And then she dove all the way in. And she got on a plane by herself, flew to Peru, and did a month.
Wow.
By herself. She was 23 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She did, so a lot of the things like that slow you down are the food, right? Like, cause we're so gluttonous, like in our, whatever it might be, maybe it's beer or
yeah,
definitely not beer.
No, never.
But like the wheat that we put in our bodies, sugar, like the white sugar is just like, it's so punishing on our bodies.
Yeah.
And so she did what they called a 30-day fast.
Okay.
So she would go 7 days with only water.
Wow.
Yeah, like a 24-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And then they would have like in between the 7 days, they would have one day where she would eat like some bananas and like just like some light stuff.
Yeah.
For 30 days, she fasted and had like a light meal so she wouldn't die, basically. And then she would do ayahuasca periodically, however they saw fit to help her. She came back. She was different. I mean, she was just different. And she looked at me and she goes, Dad, I'm not depressed anymore.
Cool.
And it's like, how do you know anybody who has been in our system, in the Americanized system with the pills and all that, who has come to you and said, I'm not sick anymore?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen because it's not, the system is not built for that, right?
Right.
The system is artificial. The system is feeding this pharmaceutical beast, right? And we're just feeding this beast the money, and what the difference between the pharmaceutical and the ayahuasca is just wants us to learn to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's so special. Like when you see it from your kid, like when you see your kid struggling, like maybe right now your kids are good. They're still at that age where they're still pretty innocent, but they're coming into that 13, 14
Yeah.
thing, right? And when you see the struggle, and if you get faced with, like, I mean, my kid had a hard life. I was hard on her, and her mother was sick, right? Like, I mean, sick. So she struggled. She had a shitty life. And she overcame it in like a year.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to parlay that, think about the epidemic that we have, the opioid crisis here.
Yeah.
The answer to the opioid crisis is ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And there's another one from Africa, which is called iboga. Yeah. And it's a bit of a harder one. But between those two things, we could clean up this opioid crisis in 3 years.
So how does that's an interesting thing to say, because, you know, even just where our office is, like we're confronted with that on a daily basis. There's people all over that clearly are needing help, right?
They need help.
Yeah. And it's hard to see, because you don't know, what is the answer because whatever's happening right now clearly isn't the answer, because it doesn't ever get better. It continues to get worse and worse. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that would be my question is there something in Canada or North America where they are at least looking at these types of things as potential options or as potential solutions? Because it just seems to me that whatever the current quote unquote solution isn't solving anything. So, my thought would be, let's be open to some suggestions here. Let's be a little bit more open-minded than saying no more of the same, right? Because like, you see these people and I walk by them every day, and you make eye contact with them and you look at them and you just feel so sorry, because you only get one life, and to see that they're not even in a state of consciousness to even they have no sense of awareness. They're just and it's so sad to see, and it just seems like we're not saying, okay, well, let's brainstorm some other solutions out there. So I guess, is that happening, and if not, why?
Right. So there's some super interesting things happening. I mean, so what I can tell you is that I've seen like military in ayahuasca ceremonies, because it's the only thing that can treat PTSD. Mm-hmm. What do you think has happened to these guys who checked out on the opioid crisis? Do you think, had I not found ayahuasca, I would probably be that guy with the grocery cart downstairs? Right. I'm so blessed.
Well, I think actually it's funny because, not funny, sorry. It is not funny. That's the wrong word. No, but it's interesting in that I was having this conversation with someone earlier this morning, just because we were, out there and we were talking. We're like, look at this. Like, because one of the things that, you know, if you're in a bad situation, you know, the best thing you can do is physically leave that situation. So if you live in Skid Row, physically remove yourself from Skid Row is step one. But these people aren't even consciously, you know, like there's no thought process in terms of like critical thinking or anything like that, right? And so that's kind of what there needs to be, is this awareness of, hey, look where I am, and allow their brains to kind of start functioning on like, I need to change this. There's no, that's not happening clearly, right? Is this something that would happen if they were able to experience this?
So maybe I can just put my 10 cents in.
Yeah.
This isn't science. This isn't proven way forward. But what we always have is we have two governments, right? I hope Daniel Smith is listening to this. So we have the conservatives who are hard and they're against drugs, right? We're gonna just put more penalties down. We're gonna thrash these guys. We're gonna smarten them up. You can't smarten them up.
Okay.
Right? Then we have the liberal side of it. Let's legalize all the drugs. Let's do all the stuff. And then what happens within that, which we know because I lived in Vancouver, and literally I make my living from building steel doors to keep these people out of things because they keep breaking into everything, and because of this epidemic, there's all this. It's like almost like a war zone, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you get down on East Hastings, like, whoa,
Yeah.
It is amazing. Like, it's like a whole different world. It's crazy. So we have two groups of people. We have the people who are like, let's be easy on the people, and we have the people who, let's be hard on the people. But how about we do it a little bit different, and we go, let's be hard on the drugs and let's be easy on the people. So we take the conservative point of view and we take the liberal point of view, and we create a program where, okay, if these people break the law in any form, we be hard on them. Okay, the law, they break the law, they're hurting your building maybe, or they're hurting something, right?
Yeah.
So let's make them accountable for that, because we have to be accountable, even though these people can't be accountable, right?
Right.
So okay, we impede a sentence on them. Okay, they sold opioids. Let's give them 10 years in jail. Now we know that would be the way the conservative government would do it if they could.
Okay.
But there's no room. There's no room in the justice system to put these people, like, they literally just pass these people off because they don't know what to do with them. They're not arresting them. They're not doing anything. So what if we went, okay, let's give them a 10-year sentence for opioids. But the liberal side, what we'll do is we'll give them an option. They can come into a couple of ayahuasca ceremonies. We will build a place maybe out in the country, get them out of where they are here forcibly, right? Because we know they can't.
Right.
They can't make that decision right now. The only decision they can make is to survive right now. They're surviving. So let's take them. Now we kind of have control of them, because they can either go 10 years in jail or they can come to this program. And we're going to love these people. We're going to love them, and we're going to help them. Okay? We're going to give them ayahuasca, or probably iboga would be the best one. It's a little bit more serious and straight. I can tell you this, like, iboga will cure the opioid disease in a person in one shot. Like, this is not maybe, I've seen this.
Wow.
This is the truth of this medicine.
Yeah.
And ayahuasca will cure it, but you need to like really work with it and really keep the people safe. But the iboga will put the fear of God into an opioid.
Really?
Yeah, and it will just like overnight healed, and you will not. And with iboga, you will not go through the withdrawals.
Yeah.
Like, it does something in the brain that just makes it. And the science is all out there. If you ever want to check the science, there's a website called iseers.org. And all the science is on there. Like, I mean, if you want to talk about science, whatever.
Right.
They actually took a community similar to what I'm talking about. So what we do is we take them, we get them out on this, let's say, a farm, right? I love the farm thing because I love the food. It's become so important to me. Like, healthy food. I get my chickens from a guy in Bowden. I get my meat from a guy in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't go into the machine.
Yeah.
I cannot exist in that. I want real food from real people, and it's so beautiful. But we get a farm. We keep these people safe. We get them through the withdrawal. Get them some medicine, some ancestral medicine. Then we give them a job. Okay? We give them use. We give them purpose. And we still have facilitators there to help them.
Yeah.
We still have medicine ceremonies, and we work with them. In a year, those people will be contributing back to society. Not like, I bet you 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we create a system. Then what does that do? That system relieves, like, you will have to put money into that
Yeah.
to fix this. But that system relieves the healthcare system. That system relieves the criminal justice system. Think about how much money we would take from the courts and put into that system. We're spending this money.
Right. That's
So,
what yeah.
So all I'm getting to is that conservatively, it would be financially responsible, and liberally, it would be responsible for the people. It would be responsible to the people and being kind to the people and being loving, and they get their free choice, right? We're not forcing them. They broke the law. They get a choice. You want, when your kids, when my kids break the law, the law of the Chad, like at home, like if the kids go, they do something against, it's like, okay, well, here's your choices. You can eat your dinner or not.
Yeah.
Your choice. We're not going to fight about this. You get to choose. But if you don't eat your dinner, then there's these consequences you get.
Right.
You can not have a treat after, like you can't have a chocolate bar. Like if you don't eat some broccoli and some chicken, then you're not having a chocolate bar.
Right.
That's, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's a consequence to everything. Like if we're not, if like the liberals have just go, oh, like decrim, let's decriminalize, let's, and then who suffers those consequences? It's me and you, because me and you are working, and now our building is kicked in, and some homeless guy pissed on my wall or kicked a window in, and all that. I'm telling you, this isn't theory either. Like there's case studies. There's a group. So we're the only people with the opioid crisis. You know that, right? Did you know that?
North America.
North America is the only place with the opioid crisis. That's amazing to me. Like nobody else in the world. But what it's happening is it's starting to trickle into Mexico.
Okay.
And there was a group of Mexicans in the north of Mexico they were at one time from southern Mexico. So they were a different kind of a group, and they got forced up because of the war on drugs and all these weird things that happened. Their whole community kind of got forced up to like Tijuana, like in the north part, like close up to the border. And all of the whole community, and I can get you all the information about this. The whole community became addicted to opioids. Like what? How is that possible? Right? 100%. So then they had this idea. They're like, okay, some people in the community were like, they were involved, and this was with these ICRs guys.
Okay.
And so what they did was they took and they kept track of it all, and what they did was they took this community, they took them back down to the south. They gave them literally the same way that I'm talking about. They gave them a way of life, a use, and so they had to do different tasks or jobs or whatever, and they treated them with ayahuasca. 100%, every one of them is off opioids.
Wow.
To this day, right now, that happened. This isn't like me making up shit.
Right.
Like this is a real life story, and what's happening here is why are we not doing this? Like that's my question. That's like our mental health system is broken. Remember, I'm telling you, like they're discharging mentally ill children into homeless shelters.
Yeah.
Is this working?
Yeah.
And who do you think that kid's going to be next?
Yeah.
He is going to be the guy on the street doing opioids if he survives.
Yeah.
If he is not killed.
Yeah, I feel like like we see it on the streets every day, and there has to be more of an open an open conversation that's really looking at all of the different options, because I agree, like, there's not, we're so polarizing with, you're
That's
either
the
on
word.
this side or you're on this side, and it's just like, well, let's come together, because the people that are losing the most are the people that are outside in the back alley right now. Like, they're losing their
And what
lives.
about their families?
Yeah.
What about their
Yeah.
families? Like, could you imagine if it was your kid out there,
Yeah.
and like you would live with this guilt of what you did, and it's not really true, but you would die from that. You would
Yeah.
die on the inside.
Yeah.
It would be so horrible.
I just think we need to be more open to it. And like, I've never done it, obviously, so I can't speak to, yes, this is the solution, but
Right.
I just feel like we just sometimes aren't even willing to have conversations. Like, think about growing up. I think about when we were growing up, cannabis was the devil, and it was gonna, it was gonna kill you. And so, but then it affected the way we consumed cannabis,
Right.
which was, if you were doing it, you have to do it like, it'd be like, smoke it as fast as you can and then swallow the roach. And it was like the dumbest thing, like, because you weren't able to have those conversations. And I think anytime that you prevent conversations from being allowed to happen, then whatever you're talking about, you're not going to have responsible use of that product, right? Because you're doing it covertly.
Right. It's some kind of a shaming
Yeah.
thing, and I like that you use the word polarizing, because it's these two political parties, and it's like you're on one side or the other, but it's not. That's not the answer. The answer is in the middle. The answer is picking your spot, and both sides have good points.
Yeah.
But nobody's got to it. That's why I said, if Danielle Smith was listening to this, because she wants to clean up the healthcare, she wants to do all these things, but she doesn't have the mechanism.
Right.
She's just going off, and she wants to financially clean it up because it's broken.
Right.
But it's not about finances.
Yeah.
All the financial part would be equal. And
Yeah.
then what would happen is they'd have, these, like, I've worked in probably like 20 or 30 different towns in the last few years. And like, you go to these small towns like Red Deer, Lethbridge, Terrace, BC, they have fenced in barbed wire fences that look like they're from prison camps for these people in these small towns. Like, this isn't just a Vancouver thing anymore.
Right.
This is here. It's everywhere. It's these little tiny towns, man.
Yeah.
And we're not doing anything. We're pretending like we don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. It's so sad, because I know I've like literally seen it firsthand.
No, I love
know
it.
It can clean it. It can clean it. It's so special.
Okay, I have one I don't think it's a random question, but just kind of deviating from what we're talking about now. Just in your life and the experiences that you've had, our mutual friend Chris had phoned me a couple weeks ago to be like, dude, you got to talk to Chad. He's got a crazy life story. But your crazy life story, from what I can see, you're living the happy ending of it, right? You're very happy. You have a great family life. I feel like when when you've kind of come out the other side, and in a good way, one of the most important things that you can do on a daily basis is, show gratitude. And so on a daily basis, like, is that an important part of your life? And, because we were talking about even just like people like Chris and being in your life, like, how important is just being grateful for where you're at? How important is that to you?
So, like, I mean, this is so important. Like, I mean, it's the end all, the be all. I always talk with my girls. There's two dogs in your head, and it's whichever one you feed. And if you can be grateful for something you don't like, you are a weapon. You own it.
Yeah.
The external circumstance no longer control you.
Right.
They don't own you anymore. You are living free of the prison that you have been put in.
Yeah.
You have been put into a prison living in this country.
Yeah.
They're like, don't get me wrong, I love this country, beautiful, most special place in the world. I've been all over the world. I've seen a lot of places. This is a special place. But We are taught an agenda. We are taught a way to live. We are taught how to do things. We are taught to be in fear. We are taught to consume. We are taught all these things. And once you can have gratitude, you step outside of that box and you don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
And you are in control of you and your destiny. And you become twice as happy. You become twice as humble. You become twice as grateful, because the grateful just, you feed that dog, right? You're feeding that grateful dog.
Mm-hmm.
And when that dog is getting fed, that dog is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can go into that coffee shop and say, oh man, you know, this is a really great coffee. I'm so thankful that you made that coffee. Like the other day we get this delivery from the meat place, and it's like, I had a tear in my eye, because I was like, I am so grateful that this guy cares to make his meat with so much love that I can feel that.
Yeah.
I can taste that. It's palpable. And it's like, I wept.
Yeah.
And if you can have that happiness in the smallest things, nobody is going to control you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny that you say that about the coffee shop, is like, and maybe that's just because I'm getting to be an old cranky man, but it's people don't even interact anymore. Like they order their coffee on their app and they just come in, they look for their name and they go. I mean, it's like the amount of interaction in the world is decreasing so much. But it's you know like you're right. Like we need to try to be grateful in those situations. So take opportunities to increase those connection points versus how do I do this on an app so that I don't have to interact with that human being, you know? Because I think those interactions and showing gratitude in those interactions are really important.
So important.
Yeah.
Like I even, like when I go into a coffee shop, I wait until they make eye contact with me.
Yeah.
I won't even talk until they make eye contact with me. And then I look them in the eyes and like show them that I love them. Like I show them.
Yeah.
And it's like, hi, I want some stupid thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
That's awesome.
But I am going to let you into my soul.
Yeah.
When I order coffee. That's open.
Yeah.
That's gratefulness. That is love.
I love that.
Yeah.
We literally could have had 2 podcasts because we had like an hour conversation before we hit record. So thank you for taking the time, man. Like this was great. It was everything that Chris said it would be. But learning, the fact that you were able to overcome everything that you have, but just to have that positive message that you're sharing is awesome. So thanks for being here, man.
I'm super grateful.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Okay, take care, man.